Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Bell Custom. So today we're going to do a repair on this Bowen Designs Bishop statue. As you can tell, this thing took a pretty bad tumble and we got to pretty much put it back together. The major problem of this whole item was this here. As you can see, this is pegged into the base and this goes to here. Now the problem is, if I was to put this back on with just some glue or some eaves, it wouldn't really be sturdy enough to hold this statue. I would really need to get a rod going up to here to really secure this. So what I did is, when I told the person that sent it to me, I said I'm going to need the base for him, because if it was just like a repair for an arm or something like that, I wouldn't really need the base. But sadly, what I have to do is I have to Dremel out this peg and I have to attach this foot and get a new one. So that's my first goal on this repair, is to get this attached up to there, and then I can do everything else. You can see the arms broke off over here. We got a couple of nicks here and there, and it's very dusty too. So the first thing I'm going to do is really wash it off. I'm just going to go in there, wash it with some soapy water, get it all cleaned up, and then from there what we're going to do is we're going to get this peg out of this foot and we're going to attach it onto there, and then we're going to start going over and stuff. We were going to do a repaint, but I think now we're going to just do a repair. Now also, clear resin's always a pain. A translucent and clear resin, you can never really repair it the original way it was. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use some of the epoxy, two-part epoxy I had with like a dab of like purple, and sort of kind of like put it back together and sort of repaint it a little. That's the only thing you can really do. You can never really repair it completely. Then we have other stuff like this over here that's broken, and that goes on, I think, his back or shoulder. Yeah, over here. So, you know, we got a lot of little tweaking and stuff to do. But I think once we get all the dust off and we clean him up, we should be pretty much ready to go. So I think this is going to be one of those repairs that I kind of do a little bit each day. I don't think I can really rush it all. I think once I get it repaired up, it's just a matter of touching up some of the paints and he should be good to go. Alright, so I went in the garage and I cut myself a chunk of key stock. It's actually the perfect size for the hole into the base, and it's about the same exact as the other key that was already in here. It's just longer now. This is actually zinc, it's not steel, so I don't have to worry about magnets hitting it. I chopped out the hole and the other rod that was in here. I just wanted to make sure I kept the heel, so I had to kind of Dremel like a kind of like a U horseshoe, and then I sort of wiggled out that piece and I got that out. And I also Dremeled out underneath here as well. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some Magic Sculpt. I'm going to get this foot sort of attached for now. I'm not going to make sure that all the Magic Sculpt comes to the bottom. I'm just going to make sure it's just there enough, so this way I could sort of place him on here, put him aside, let him cure up for the day. So this way, once I have this item that's actually removable from the base and it's secured, I can do all my other repairs, because it's easier to work on something when you put him into the base and let him sit than trying to lay him down and parts hitting and trying to put it like other ways where the arm won't hit. So it's always better to have the base situated first. So let's get this Magic Sculpt mixed up. I'll put a couple dabs of glue. We'll squeeze this onto there and let it sit up for the day. And then after that, we start going through all the other parts. Okay, it worked out a little bit better than I expected. Usually whenever I do something where I put a couple dabs of glue and I have that much of an opening and I squeeze in A's or Magic Sculpt, usually the foot or something breaks off and it's kind of like, it's just a pain. But for some odd reason this one worked out pretty damn well, so I can't complain about that. So we're going to let him cure up for the day, but looking at it, he goes in and out of the base no problem. We have a nice new key. It comes up further up about there. So this is all messy around here, but what's going to happen is I'll Dremel this off, I'll rebuild this tomorrow, just kind of like sort of match up the wrinkles and stuff on his foot. I'll fill in the bottom here and I'll put some baby powder so it doesn't mess any of that up. But main part is pretty much set up, ready to go. And you know, hitting the desk and he's not wobbling. So we know he's actually in a good position. So let this cure up for the day, and then we can just keep plugging away on all the other repairs. Okay, so I've been working on this a little bit here and there. It was beat up pretty bit more than I realized, so I had to kind of patch some more little areas. So this is going to require some like touching up as I build and stuff. But one of the things I noticed, like in this arm here, for some odd reason, it seems like the paint's been bubbling, or it might have always been bubbled with the factory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this down a little bit more and get this a little bit more cleaned up, because it's like when you put your nail over, for some odd reason the paint's popping out. I don't know, it must have been like a factory defect there, or it could be maybe something was sitting in a box for a long time and it got heated up and it bubbled. Not really sure, but if you really rub your nail against it, it's like just scraping off those bubbles. So I'm going to kind of fix this up anyway, since we're kind of redoing it, most of it. So this arm right here was a lot of trouble, only because it really broke up pretty bad. And right now it's kind of hard to see on how well I patched it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some silly putty, wrap around here. I'm going to hit this with a red oxide primer. Like I said, I got to repaint the skin. I got to touch up some of the face anyway. So since it's just this arm, in here, I could kind of get away with, you know, trying to repaint the skin and touching it up a little bit better than what it's there. So I did patch up this part over here, so this way this hand goes in there now and that's not broken anymore. I did try to repair some of the gun stuff here and there because that got beat up. I still got a little bit more pieces to kind of fix up best I can. Guns are always trouble if you don't have the parts that broke off, so I'm just trying to get as patched up as best as I can, but it was banged up pretty bad. Now, this ankle over here is working out pretty well. This is all pretty much cleaned up. I probably should hit this with a little bit of primer, or either probably some of the Tamiya chrome silver, so this way I can see if I need to fill any little areas in there, but this is nice and secure now. Now, two last things is the gun will be attached at the end. After I kind of patch up everything, fix the hairs, get all that stuff, I'll be able to just see if I need to fix the gun a little bit, Dremel in there, and kind of glue it back on and attach it, and that'll be set. But this hand right here will probably be before I do the gun, because this is translucent pink, and sadly, whenever this stuff breaks, you can't really repair it new. So what I'm going to probably have to do is use some paint after I attach this all back together and kind of come up with another little bit of like a pearlized kind of glow purplish pink stuff on his arm. I'll talk to the client though, because I always thought maybe his stuff was more reddish, I think, or maybe like a reddish pink. This is kind of more purple. I don't know. We'll figure that out when I'm ready to work on it. But for now, I want to focus on getting all this patched up. So I'm going to go in the garage, sand this down a little bit. I'll come back. I'll have this all primed up, see if I need to work out anything there. And then we're pretty much coming down to the thing of patching this up best we can. Because like I said, I don't think we're doing a full repaint. I think the client just wants to get it back to repair it up and go. But we got a couple broken pieces in the hair. I'll have to kind of do some fudge work on that. But yeah, this is one of those projects where I'm not sure if we're doing the repaint yet or not. For right now, we're just focused on getting it all repaired up. But yeah, it was pretty banged up. Some of these little areas over here that got kind of like chipped on some of these pouches, I sanded those down the best I could. And then once I put some paint over there, it should look pretty good and kind of cleaned up. But he looks dusty, but I washed him down and it's not really dust. It's actually the factory paint. The factory, a little bit weird. It's kind of like they did a dark blue and then they did this really like misting of this black that kind of looks more like like dust more than actually black spray paint. I'm not really sure why. Maybe what I'll have to do is hit it with some satin afterwards, and maybe that'll kind of clean it up. Of course, I'm still trying to clean up some of my dust. I'm working on it, but we're getting there. It's a little bit tricky, but it takes a little time. It's just like treating it like a kit. So let me get in the garage, get this cleaned up so this way we can get these arms going and then start plugging away on the rest of them. Okay, so I'm ready to start touching this up and getting this all finished up. So what I'm going to do is going to mask off all the outfit areas. I'm going to work on the skin tones first. So I'm going to try to come as close as I can to factory Bowen, but I really can never do that always, because if it's just a little bit of a mess up here, I could sort of kind of blend out a little bit, blend there and there, kind of match up the paint. But this arm had to kind of be rebuilt and patched and primed, so now I just got to kind of redo the skin tone anyways. There's not that much there, so I could get away with it just doing the arms and the face. I'll mask off the teeth, I'll mask off a little bit of the hair around under the neck, and I'll just kind of repaint everything as I go. Once that's done, I'll start working on the yellow areas that I had to sand down. I'll work on the boots, get those cleaned up. Do the red scarf a little bit, fix up the hair, and then once all that's done, we're going to attach this hand on him, and we're going to get that little clear part set up. It's going to be a pink instead of the purplish that it came with. We're going to fix that up, do a little bit of like a pearl look to it, kind of make it pop a little bit more, and then at the very end, we're going to attach the gun on the back. But like I said, there's a little part over here and here that got nicked and stuff, but I'd rather do the hair later on and try to focus on the skin tone now. So I'll just get this masked up, we'll get that done, and go from there. Once I get it masked up though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this part with some clear primer, just so this way when I start painting the skin it'll attach. But like I said, this paint over here was really bubbly and messed up. I don't understand why it was like that. Must have been like a factory issue, but at least that's all taken care of, so I might as well just do the skin. So let's get this masked up, and then we'll get this going and finished up. Okay, I got the boots finished up. Now, it might be hard to see in the camera. They're slightly darker than the actual outfit now. There's still a little bit of blue in there because I wanted to keep it uniform from the original statue, but I still wanted to make them a little bit different. So, by masking off both boots, I was able to dupli-color clear primer over it. I used a Vallejo Surface black primer over the boots. I hit it with a little bit of blue. Then I went back in with some regular black paint. And then after that, I did some satin varnish over on top of it all. So they pop out a little bit more. You feel like they're boots, and they're a little bit darker, but it's still kind of uniform with the outfit now. So it's not all outfits blending right into the boots. But, you know, I mean, if I was to paint this myself from scratch, I probably would make the boots pure black, but I guess they're supposed to have a little bit of blue in it. I don't know. We'll just kind of run with it. So I got a little bit of touch-ups left on the outfit. I got to hit some areas that have some scrapes. We have to work on the red bandana collar, get that all done, and then we're going to start working on all the yellow pieces, and then we'll get focused on the hair, and then we're going to focus on the right hand. But right now I'm going to let this dry up for the night. I don't want to push my luck because the skin tone and the boots are still kind of fresh paint, and I really like to let that sit over a day before I start handling and masking more. The other thing too is while I was working on the boots, I saw a spot under his left arm that I missed. So I went back real quick, I did a little bit of masking, and I hit it back with some paint, and I blended all that out. So everything is pretty much good to go right now. We got a lot done. Everything is pretty much going into place now. The yellow is going to be the hardest part, honestly. Yellow paint is always hard, so that's going to be a little bit tricky because some of these spots really need some good coverage of yellow on top of it, so we're going to have to figure something out. The red should go pretty fine because red just goes over pretty much anything, no problem. And then we'll focus on the hair and everything else. Okay, I'm going to start touching up some of the yellow areas, and then once the yellow areas are touched up, I'll hit some of the leg areas. Then I got to start to rebuild some of the hair in the back. But yellow is a little bit tricky. I always find yellow is very hard to paint. If it's you know, if it's a very light base, like, you know, gray primer or white or something like that, yellow goes on very well. But when you're trying to put yellow over like a dark color or reds and stuff, you have to do so many layers to get to the point where it's not worth it. So what I always like to do is use Tamia Titanium Gold as a base. Just kind of get on there with that, and then I put the yellow over on top of that. But I did notice with these yellows, some of it sort of has like a whitish yellow, while other ones have like kind of like an orangey yellow in there. So I got to try to follow that color as much as I can. So I'm going to hit it with the Titanium Gold mostly over here. And then over here, I'm going to just hit it with some more of this yellow. Hit it with some like oranges and browns, kind of get in there and mix it up a little bit. And then after that's done, I'm going to pull off all the masking. And with a paintbrush, I'm just going to go around and touch up some areas around there. Because there's tiny little nicks of stuff where if you sit there and you mask it off and you spray it, you might run into more issues than just using a paintbrush and kind of touching up those areas best you can. And then I'll seal it. And then from there, we're pretty much almost done. I got to work out his right hand at the end. I got to patch up some of his hair, and then at the very end we're going to attach the gun on his back, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm trying to focus on more of the other stuff, so I want to try to get this finished up. Alright, so I'm going to start fixing up these two pieces of the hair. Now, I looked in the box and everything, and I didn't see any of these hair pieces, so I'm going to have to kind of fudge it my own little way. That's the only problem when you get some massive breaks like this. Sometimes you can't get it back the way it originally was. So with a little sculpting, a little bit of a finesse, you could kind of hide it anyway and kind of clean it up. So what I have here is Abe's Fix-It Sculpt, A and B. I mixed up together a little bit right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit here and just kind of work out this hair strand over here and this over here. Now I think this one kind of looped upwards, but I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to kind of copy that. And I don't know if this one kind of looped upwards too. Maybe that's how it broke. So I'm going to have to do my own little take on it. But once I get it on there and I paint it up, you're really not even going to notice it. The main things was getting his body together and touching it up as best as we could. So let's get that fixed up. We'll let that dry up. And then after that, I just got 1 or 2 touch-ups left on the body, around the legs. We're going to focus on this right hand here. Then I'm going to focus on this gun at the end. Now I think I'm also might as well is get the other gun that's in his left hand that you click in. I might be able to get that painted up today too and touched up. And then basically we just have a couple more things to go and he's finished. Okay, so the next part is we're going to have to work on the energy hand. Now first I thought I was going to be able to put this on and then work out the rest, but I think what I have to do is sort of rebuild all this stuff from scratch a little bit and paint it and then attach the hand. Because the way this works is when clear resin or translucent resin breaks, you can never get a clean repair back. So if like you kind of use some super glue on here, you're still always going to see that crack in the middle, or even if you use some epoxy. So it's never going to look right. Plus, I really need to secure it because it's coming off the hand. If you don't really secure it well, if somebody holds it wrong, puts it in the box, it just snaps right off. So I talked to the client anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to paint this up pink because these powers actually should be more pink. At least in the comic books, they were more pinkish powers, reddish, stuff like that. So we're going to kind of go that route anyway. So what I'm going to start doing is kind of like just put some dabs of glue on these for now. And then what I'll have to do is go in there with some A's and kind of like secure it up and do a little bit of like sculpt work. And then prime it or kind of clear prime it or something. And then we're going to paint it clear. But while I'm building it, I have to make sure that I glue it on, that it goes correct. Because if you glue it on at a wrong angle and you try to put this back on, it'll snap off. So I got to be a little bit tricky with it and be careful, at least on this piece. The part up here I don't have to worry about. It's this part here. So gonna have to put some dabs of glue, hit it with a little Insta-Set, make sure that this kind of fits on, even if it comes up a little bit, and then just do some sculpting work and hope for the best. Okay, so I was going to start sculpting this piece up a little bit, and then we'd be able to attach it at the end, but it seems as though there is a little bit of an issue. There's a big chunk here missing, and I looked all over and the stuff, so there's a clear piece here missing, so we have to sort of kind of fudge this out. So I think the best bet, what I'm going to do is sort of put a bunch of A's underneath in here and around here and do a little sculpting work here as well. And then I'm going to have to paint this while it's on the item. It's not the end of the world, it'll work. But I think what I really need to do first though is get this piece on here and get this piece attached up here. And then what I'll do is I'll attach this and sculpt this out, kind of blend this up a little bit more and go from there. This is something that's got to be secured with thicker A's. I could sort of Dremel this little piece in here, but there's really not much of me, but I'll try. But this over here, since this big chunk is missing, it's got to be sculpted. For me to sculpt it and put this on and then push it on like that, I'm just going to get all this a mess. It's better for me to just kind of like let this bond to the arm. So that's just something I just realized. And I'm looking around though, I think that's the only broken part that's missing is this chunk here. So I'm going to go in the garage, I'm going to get this Dremeled out. I'm going to start getting this part worked out. If this somehow breaks on me while I'm doing it, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to have to get reattached. So I just got to kind of line this up and get this on there as well. And then I think that should work out pretty well. I think there's a little piece broken off at the tip here, but it doesn't seem like it. I can't really tell too much. But we're just going to have to run with it. Yeah, so it's going to be repainted anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's just the nature of a broken statue. You got to kind of come up with the fudging of stuff. And then at the very end, I'm going to hit these last two spots that I missed over here on the body. And then that's pretty much where we're at, and just work on that gun in the back. Alright, so sort of a little update for the next day working on this. Always things sort of change here and there. So I decided it's probably better to paint this separate and then attach it at the end, only because I realized thinking about it over the night is it would be too hard to get in here and paint it. So what I did is I mixed up some Magic Sculpt, and what I did is I put this little piece over here. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this to sort of fit, but not fit perfect, but enough that it's going to go on his hand. So I got to kind of play with it, and I'm going to get the skin a little bit messed up. It'll be covered anyway. I might have to put some baby powder on this part just to kind of make sure it doesn't stick, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm just kind of placing it. Trying to make sure I position the hand correctly too, because I don't want the hand to be like twisted, and then when I go to put this on I realize I messed up. So it's a little tricky here and there. So if I put any baby powder on here and it's dusty, what I'll do is when I'm ready to paint it up, I could just kind of wash it off with some water. But other than that, it's just a matter of trying to find the right spot and make sure it sticks. What I did is I did put a little bit more Magic Sculpt on in here, trying to get all this stuff secured as best as possible. So I might have to thicken it up a little bit more underneath. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep playing with this and just making sure that it's set up and it works out pretty well. It's just one of those things. I just had to kind of think about it for overnight and then realize it's just better to paint this separate and attach it at the end instead of trying to sit there and mask all this off and maybe messing some stuff up. So probably I could do a better job too with just kind of like masking off the fist, getting something to hold it, and do a nice good pearlized pink glow on here and all that. I asked the client too, maybe if he wants the hand kind of glowing too, so it's like a whole piece of just glowing. We'll see. I don't know, things change. Okay, so all I did was put a little dab of glue within there, and I put this metal rod. This is the best way to kind of hold this up and paint it. So that'll pop out really easy, and I'll still be able to attach it. So what I also did was hit it with some of this clear primer from Dupli-color, just to get this all coated up. So here I'm going to do a base coat of chrome silver from Tamia, and then I have this pearlized, I think it's magenta. Yeah, this pearlized magenta from Createx, and then I also got Badger magenta, and we're going to go with that. Now I'm going to paint over the hand for now, and we're going to take a look on how this looks. If the client likes it and he's like, yeah, leave the hand that way, we will. But if he wants me to go back to the glove, I could just go back and repaint it anyway. It's not really a big deal because I still got to touch up the other glove. But I just want to see what it would look like with his whole hand glowing. I think it might look a little bit better because personally, a lot of the pictures I saw, I really don't see it coming out of the glove. I've always seen the hand kind of glowing too. So we'll just see how it works out. But this is going to be as close as I can get to some kind of like repair and make it look like it's glowing. And I think at the end what we'll do is we'll hit it with some gloss coat, probably with like dupli-color clear, or I have some Spaztec clear. We'll see how that works out. But for right now, I just want to get this kind of painted up, and then we can see what it looks like on the statue, and then see if we need to do the glove or leave it as is and go from there. Okay, so I'm getting ready to finish up Bishop. So you can see this hand, I did the glove blue because the client wanted to go with the blue, but we have the powers on him, so that's all set up. So the last thing is kind of clean up this gun a little bit, and we got to attach it to his back. Now the problem with this is the way this was, it's sculpted as a square key, and then what they do is they put a couple of dabs of glue and then they glue this in at the end, and that's the way they do it. Now the problem is if you just dremel a hole here and you dremel a hole here, and you put like a cut nail or a circle brass rod or any kind of like something that's rounded in there, the problem is it's not really in a way that it's going to hold it forever, because if you kind of like grab this with your shirt or your hand by accident, it'll twist on you because it's a metal, it's just a square rod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dremel a hole up there and a hole down here, and I'm going to put 2 rods in and then 2 rods here and attach it, so this way it can't really twist and break off. The only way it's really going to break and snap is if you grab it and you really pull it. So that's something to think about if you ever do a repair like this, where it's kind of like there's not a lot of meat holding the item. You want something that's like a 2-prong to really hold it and keep it there. So I'm going to drum out the holes on this first and drum out the holes on this, get this cleaned up a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'll attach the right hand and then I'll attach the gun at the same time, get it all cleaned up, let it dry overnight, and then it's pretty much done. Okay, what I'm doing right now is I just got to do this off camera, just kind of just cleaning up a little bit of the crack over here. So the best thing I came up with was drilling a hole through here all the way through the chest, and then the same thing up there. Now the only thing was I kind of went through this by accident, so I'm just kind of filling this in and patch this, and then I'm patching that as well. The hand is attached, so I'm just going to get this patched up, let it kind of cure up for the day. Later tonight I can actually go there and touch it up with some yellow paint, so it should be cured by then. And then just clean up any dust or anything on the item, look them over one more time, and then he's finished. Okay, so he's all finished up. I went over everything I could possibly do. I've touched up areas here and there. I tried to find any more extra nicks off of camera. There was a couple here and there I sort of kind of missed in some yellow areas, but I got those all patched up. I went over the legs again, and we're pretty much all finished up. So the only thing I have left to do is make sure he fits in the foam. Make sure there's no areas that maybe kind of change a little bit, because you know, putting the right hand back on with the power trail, it might be a little bit different now because I resculpted some areas, so I got to make sure that fits in the foam. Also the gun here, I got to make sure that fits as well, just in case if it's at a different angle, but I put it on exactly kind of where it broke off. So I just want to make sure everything is working into the foam box. But other than that, we are done. I will look over the base real quick too before I put it in the box, just to make sure if there's any nicks or anything I could kind of do a quick patch on those. But that is pretty much it. So what do you guys think? I think it came together pretty well. It's just to show you guys that whenever an item does break apart like that, you can put it back together and either do a full repaint or a touch-up. So the client wanted to just pretty much get them back together and do some touch-ups than do a completely new repaint, because that's a lot more work. So this was kind of just more or less touching up and getting everything uniformed. But it was kind of good that we did it too, because we kind of fixed this arm, because it had that weird bubbling of the paint coming off. So sanding all that down just kind of made it look a little bit better now. But other than that, that's it. I mean, that's pretty much Bishop all put back together. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll be back with some more.